I call Simon O'Connor.
Mr Chair, very pleased to speak in this committee stage on the Royal New Zealand Foundation of the Blind Act Repeal Bill. Can I begin by acknowledging the Minister in the chair? This private bill which we're debating is in her name, and as I've mentioned in a few contributions prior, I think it is quite apt not only her own passion for the subject, but the fact that she is the Minister responsible for these areas, not just, of course, for the blind, but other people with a variety of disabilities. This is a very simple bill, as has clearly been indicated today by the request that we deal with this as one part. The provisions themselves are relatively simple, and I'll touch on some of those in this contribution. But I think what's really important to stress, and it's somewhat brought out in the bill in its explanatory note, general policy statement and so on, is the purpose. The purpose is in fact far more, well, actually important and symbolic than just the words themselves. This is the desire of the Royal Foundation to take control, if you will, of its own destiny and its own work. The very purpose of this bill is to remove the Royal New Zealand Foundation of the Blind off the statutory books. It's probably not appropriate in committee stage, but not going to go through all the history of the bill or why it's here. But the reason we have Clause 3, which is to repeal the Foundation of the Blind Act 2002, is to allow the Foundation to now act as an incorporated society for its members and supporters, those who are blind, those with low vision or vision impairment, to be able to control their own destiny, and ultimately to send a very strong signal, as all parts of this bill do, that the statutory requirements are no longer needed. As you will imagine, the title itself, very simple, really just indicating what this is all about. I will point out, maybe it's just my love of semantics, it's very unusual to have the word act and bill at the same place. That is important. It's going to come into immediate effect once it receives royal assent, as is pointed out in Clause 2. Look, there was no great debate in the committee around any of these clauses. We know that the Royal Foundation is working quite hard to prepare effectively that transition, and therefore no transition elements were needed. Clause 3, again, a very simple statement. It's simple repeal here of the previous act in 2002. Look, the Foundation itself has been around, I think, since well, it's been longer than 1908, but it was in 1908, I think, if memory serves me right. The Minister will be able to clarify for me a bit later, but yeah, the Foundation's been around for about 126 years. I think last year they celebrated the 125th anniversary, but in 1908, I think the original legislation was put in place. As the former speakers pointed out, there's a consequential amendment around copyright regulations from 1995. We've just been really clear about that. I suppose in this committee stage I want to be really clear that while we have put this back to the committee in our report with no amendments, so the bill went through committee, passed unanimously with no amendments, is not indicative of not having done anything. I know that's almost a triple negative in a series of words there, but the committee actually was very careful to go through this bill to ensure it clearly reached its intentions, and importantly too, it became an opportunity, and I thought it was quite important. We haven't been able to note it in the clauses rightly, but unfortunately the wider discussion that was had with representatives of the Foundation to understand some of the wider issues that are affecting those who are blind or with low vision. Ultimately, all these clauses, and by allowing the Royal Society, the Royal New Zealand Foundation of the Blind to become an incorporated society, they're going to be able to continue to pursue their agenda and lobbying. Very conscious of this insofar as I think 2 weeks ago in my own area back up in Auckland had the good opportunity to go and meet with representatives, not only to talk through what was happening with the bill, but importantly to hear the issues that they've got. As I said, the previous speaker was elucidating one of them around Marrakesh. The other, which I think is important to note, which is going to come out of this bill ultimately, excuse me, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Simon O'Connor.
Is around actually what was debated here in Youth Parliament was around accessibility. I know the Royal Foundation, and to those listening, that was well heard here, and acknowledge my own youth MP who spoke very passionately on it. The Royal Foundation has a range of activities it wants to pursue and continue to pursue, and that accessibility or mock bill that they had is just one example of it. So, Mr. Chair, it's 4 clauses, 4 very simple clauses, doesn't even take more than half a page, but it is not symbolic of the larger work, if you will, that the Foundation undertakes and wants to continue to undertake. As I say, the committee did spend a good amount of time on this. We gave it all in due consideration. What it seeks to do has been very clearly articulated, and so we're very pleased to have returned it here to the committee stage and look forward to any further contributions. And as with my colleague on the committee, Pota Williams, we're very much looking forward to third reading and progressing it further.
Members, I call Barbara Kuriga.